To all the ladies, have you ever been in a situation where it's just you doing the laundry, you sweeping the floor, or you mopping, folding clothes, cook, well everything? Have you ever done all this work while the men in your family dangle their feet and only come downstairs when it's time to eat? Ever wonder why it works like that? I asked my mom and she gave me the most controversial answer, which was, it is because we are girls and it is our job. That was the moment I knew justice has to be made, and hence became the pinpoint of my topic today, which is gender gap in domestic work. Now, every time I say gender gap, I hear inequality. Gender inequality is not okay in any shape or forms, and I believe it is time for everyone to realize this. The global gender parity in Malaysia itself is 68.6%, and this is not a pretty number. 2.6 million educated and prime working age women are not part of the workforce, which shows that every time we marginalize equality, we'll lose the chance to give opportunities to women who are deserving of it. The presence of work-family conflict can be seen, and believe it or not, these three reasons are all an effect of inequality in the distribution of household chores. I know, household chores? Seriously? Well, let me tell you that domestic labor shared by men and women is one of the facets of gender equality as stated by Frontiers. I'm speaking today as a woman of the house, a feminist, and a researcher at the Ministry of Women's Affairs. Problematization of relations that require shifts in power dynamics and social change becomes a woman's undertaking, and we will not be satisfied until fairness rolls down like water and equality like a mighty stream. I'm going to tell you the affairs of household chores being weighed more on women and why it needs to be put an end to. This will include the common stereotypes imposed on women related to domestic work. Secondly, how this matter undermines women's capabilities. And finally, whether we are ready for change. The distribution of my 5 interviewees and answer survey of 45 respondents consists of both male and female, working and studying, and married and unmarried subjects. From this, more than half agree, as shown in the blue color, to the presence of gender gap in domestic work. Moreover, they also concur with a majority of 66.7% saying that domestic work is weighed more on the women in their house. I'll begin by telling you the common stereotypes placed on women related to domestic work. Gender norms and roles should be abolished in the distribution of household chores. Based on the survey and interviewees relating to household chores that are called as women's work, I've concluded my findings into a bar graph. As you can see, the results show the typical woman's work to be cleaning, cooking, and childcare, with the highest results ranging from 36 to 41 respondents agreeing to this rule. This also includes other responsibilities such as doing laundry, grocery shopping, paying bills, and childcare, which adds more to the list of women's work. The gatherings of my survey and interview does not divert much from Coltrane's point of view on the housework weight on women, which I've touched on in my previous presentation. The problem is that domesticity is conventionally held as a feminine virtue. This goes way back to the past, where women were not given as much opportunity as men to have proper education and enroll in labor force, as they are considered to be incapable or inadequate. Roles were then differentiated and are carried through time. This is when society ingrains these household chores to be intrinsic or natural to being a woman, as stated in the research Why Domestic Work is a Feminist Issue. By now, it is pretty certain that most household chores do revolve around women compared to men. However, you might still be asking, okay, so women do domestic chores. So what? Let me tell you why. The outweigh of household chores on women have undermined their capabilities. The first reason being the effect on labor force. More women delving into the responsibility of domestic work has caused less participation of women in the labor force. This has further caused a widening of gap between men and women. Next is the effect of wages. In a journal written by Mary C. Noonan, she hypothesized the negative effect of housework on wages from past empirical research, and results consistently suggest that women do incur a statistically significant penalty for housework time than men do. Moreover, it has an effect towards women's social status. The view that domestic work is seen as less valuable compared to other professions has made women looked down upon and not given much chances as men. It hinders community from seeing a woman's value solely based on their abilities to do a certain work, causing men to be seen as more superior in workforce. Not to forget the most significant, which is the health and mentality state of women. Housework chores weighed on women is burdening on one side, which may lead to excessive stress. This especially holds true for the mothers who are both house moms and breadwinners for the family. It may also affect the mental health of women to juggle housework chores on her own, since it is a never-ending and always occurring work. The problem that unequal distribution of work has on women is inevitable, stretching itself from labor force to health and all the way to outright discrimination. It is a problem that indeed needs to be overcome, but the real question here is, are we ready for change? Malaysians need to overcome traditional stereotypes and be accepting of changes in order to make a difference. From the survey and interviews, it can be seen that 71.7%, which is the majority, believes that we are ready for change. In this generation, equality has been more advocated than before, which gives change a higher chance of happening. People at this time are more accepting of gender equality, and this is a good start. We can also see that women are given more opportunities for work and education than before, which shows that traditional mindsets are starting to evolve. In addition, social media and the news has become the medium where women's voices are proclaimed, and these voices will only get louder by day. However, we have to take it slowly. Traditional values and stereotypes are impossible to be conquered drastically. Reforming one's attitude towards gender-based roles requires step-by-step progress in order to be fully ready for change. It is without a doubt the mere inability to agree on a fair distribution of household chores holds greater effects than we had expected. It is not a matter of stop whining and just do your chores. It is about promoting gender equality. Earlier, I had told you of the common stereotypes imposed on women relating to domestic work. The list of chores is endless, which shows that women's work is clearly seen as unproductive. Then I had explained to you about how household responsibilities affects women in different aspects, furthermore undermining their capabilities and worth. And lastly, I had touched on whether we are ready for change. This leads us to the final question, which is how do we eradicate the gender gap in domestic work? The way to address household chores is like the way we address any group work in an academic or job setting. As we know, to properly function, all members of the group need to equally delegate the responsibility, and no one should be a free rider who leisurely enjoys the product without giving as much effort. It is certainly not fair to the others on behalf of the free rider, so why should we treat distribution of household chores any differently? The challenge in addressing household chores is when it is not just women who want it to change. Men will definitely have to step up at home. It means finding a balance of household chores for both men and women to do, and working together to share the burden. Starting at home may seem like a small step, but small leaps are better than standing still. Through this action, families will have better delegation of tasks between its members and eventually overcome the idea of gender-based roles. I'm going to end with a short message from Emma Watson as UN Women's Goodwill Ambassador. I quote, "Gender equality is not a feminist issue, nor is it a fight between men and women. In fact, it is a fight between us two and the problem. And in this case, the problem of gender gap in domestic work is in our home. It is up to us to break the glass ceiling." That is all for my speech. Thank you very much for listening.